Hey everyone, I'm Audrey Wilson. I'm 32 and just dropped $3,000 planning what was supposed to be the New Year's party of the century at my downtown Chicago condo. Cue excitement. I called my mom, all hyped about my promotion and the celebration I'd put together, and her response? Oh honey, about that. You're not going to be able to have your party. Nathan and his kids are moving into your place. Yep, my brother Nathan, the golden child, and his 3 kids were crashing my party, my home. Families are supposed to support each other, right? Not take advantage. Little did they know what I had in store. Before I dive into this wild story, drop a comment below where are you watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever dealt with entitled family members. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. Cut 2. Audrey sitting comfortably growing up in Oak Park, a middle-class Chicago suburb. The Wilson family had an unspoken hierarchy. Nathan, my older brother by 4 years, was the golden firstborn who could do no wrong. Melanie, my younger sister by 3 years, was the baby who needed constant protection. And me, the middle child, the responsible one expected to be self-sufficient and support. Everyone else. Our modest 3-bedroom home was the stage for so many moments of unequal treatment. I remember my 16th birthday, my parents promised to help me get a used car, just like they had for Nathan. When the time came, Dad sheepishly said they'd use the money for Nathan's college tuition instead. You understand, right? You're so good at saving anyway. 2 years later, Melanie got a brand new Honda Civic because the roads were more dangerous now than when I learned to drive. Nathan was always the charismatic but irresponsible one. In high school, he was the football star who barely kept his GPA above the minimum to stay on the team. Teachers loved him because he could charm anyone with a smile and quick jokes. When he got into a state college, my parents threw a party, like he'd been accepted into Harvard. Meanwhile, I graduated valedictorian, earned a full scholarship to Northwestern, and all I got was a lukewarm "we always knew you'd do well." Cut to Audrey walking through her condo. That pattern never changed. Nathan dropped out after 2 years. Cycling through jobs from bartending to car sales to real estate, never settling down. At 25, he married Sophia, a sweet but naive woman who seemed to think she could fix him. Their wedding was extravagant, funded by my parents, draining their savings. 3 kids followed quickly. Emma, Liam, and Mason, now 12, 9, and 7. Throughout the marriage, Nathan bounced between unemployment and commission-only sales, while Sophia worked as a nurse to hold things together. Meanwhile, I was building my career. After graduating with honors in marketing, I started as an assistant at Horizon Media. I worked 60-hour weeks, lived on ramen, and clawed my way up. Every promotion was earned through sweat and strategy, never family connections or luck. 5 years ago, at 27, I saved for a down payment on my condo. 2 bedrooms, Lake Michigan view, the place I instantly fell in love with. My parents came to the housewarming but spent most of the night talking about Nathan's big break in commercial real estate. The people who truly celebrated me: Diana and Marcus, colleagues who became friends. Diana, my creative director, was my mentor. Marcus, from analytics, had partnered with me on campaigns that delivered big wins. Cut to Audrey sitting at a cafe when Nathan and Sophia's marriage started to unravel last year. It surprised no one, except maybe my parents. The final blow? Sophia discovered Nathan's gambling debts. She filed for divorce, and suddenly Nathan was facing years of poor choices catching up with him. Through it all, I kept climbing at Horizon Media. Last month, after landing the impossible Tucker Industries account, I was promoted to marketing director. With that came a raise, visibility, and the feeling that finally, my career was where I wanted it to be. The New Year's party was supposed to celebrate that milestone, my first time hosting colleagues as an equal in leadership. Cut to Audrey laughing with friends. I planned everything meticulously. Catering, from Chicago's best tapa spot, a craft cocktail bartender, subtle but elegant decorations to transform my condo into something magical. Over lunch, Diana raised her glass to Audrey, finally getting the recognition she deserves. If only my family felt the same. Cut to Audrey holding phone, looking tense. Then came the call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday in early December. I was finalizing the menu when Mom called. "Hey Mom," I said, excited to share details. "Audrey, sweetie," she started, that forced cheerfulness I knew too well. "How are you?" "Great. Did you get my text about the promotion? I'm officially marketing director now." "Oh, that's nice, dear. Very nice." The dismissal was subtle but clear. "Listen, I'm calling about Nathan. The divorce finalized yesterday." My stomach tightened. "Is he okay?" "Well, he's lost the house." Sophia's lawyer was ruthless. "After everything he's been through, now he and the kids have nowhere to go." I sighed, already sensing this wasn't going to be simple. Closing shot. Audrey looking determined. Stick around for part 2, where I tell you exactly what happened when Nathan and his kids moved in and how I took back control of my life. Audrey, so, where was this heading? I asked. Has he looked into apartments? I could help find something in his price range, I offered. Mom laughed, brittle and sharp. Apartments. On what income? He's between jobs again, and with 3 kids to support. Then came the familiar line, your father and I would take them in. But our place is too small and your father's back can't handle the stairs with all their things. The implication hung heavy. My condo was the only option. Your place has that second bedroom, she added, and you're hardly ever there with your work schedule. It just makes sense. I gripped the phone tighter. Mom, I have the New Year's party coming up. I already paid the deposit. It's important for my career too. She cut me off. Oh, about that, you're not going to be able to have your party. Nathan and his kids are moving into your place. Not would you consider not, could they possibly? Just facts. As if my home wasn't really mine at all. Mom, that's not going to work. My condo barely fits me in my home office, let alone for more people. I need my space to work. Family comes first. Audrey, her voice hardened. Nathan needs support. The kids need stability. Surely your party can wait. The conversation quickly deteriorated. It ended with her insisting on a family meeting at their house on Sunday. Cut to Audrey walking up to her parents' house. Sunday arrived. I was determined to stand my ground. The familiar smell of Mom's pot roast greeted me the second I stepped inside comfort food. And a classic manipulation tactic. Nathan was already there, slouched on the couch, red-rimmed eyes brightening. When I came in, "Hey sis," he said, trying to smile. Mom appeared, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Audrey's here. Let's eat first, then talk." Dinner was an emotional masterclass in manipulation. Dad asked surface-level questions about my job. Mom kept serving Nathan's second and third helpings, murmuring about how thin he looked. Melanie, who'd driven in from Milwaukee, kept giving me pointed looks every time Nathan mentioned the challenges of single parenthood. Cut to family dinner scene after dinner. We gathered in the living room for the discussion, which quickly became my surrender ceremony. "Just temporary," Nathan assured me, leaning forward with earnest eyes. "Just until I get back on my feet. 3 months, tops." "Where would the kids sleep?" I asked, trying to stay practical. "I have 1 spare bedroom," I explained. "The boys can share the second bedroom." Mom jumped in. "Emma can sleep on the pull-out couch. It's just temporary, after all." "In my home office," I pressed. "I need that space to work." Nathan waved it off. "You can work at the dining table, or better yet, stay at the office. You're always there anyway." I took a deep breath. "Look, I get it, you're in a tough spot, but my condo isn't the solution. I've worked hard for my space, and I need it for my career. I'm happy to help find you something affordable. Maybe help with the security deposit, but giving up my home? No." Melanie rolled her eyes. Typical Audrey. Always about the career and the money. That frustration I knew all too well rose up again. "It's not fair. I've earned everything I have. I'm offering to help, just not by losing my home." Dad finally spoke, quiet but firm. "Audrey, it's just for a little while. Nathan has nowhere else to go," I suggested. "What about a short-term rental, or a hotel, until he finds something permanent?" Mom scoffed. "On what budget? He's paying child support no end with no job." I couldn't help it. The words slipped out before I could stop them. "So I'm supposed to append my life because Nathan lost his job again." The room fell silent. Nathan's face crumpled and heard a reaction that felt rehearsed to my cynical eyes. "I can't believe you'd throw that in my face," he said quietly. Mom stood, thunderous. "That's enough, Audrey. Family comes first. Your brother needs you, and those kids need a roof over their heads. I didn't raise you to be so selfish." Dad nodded. Melanie glared. Nathan looked at me with entitlement so thick it made my blood boil. In that moment, I knew I was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. If I kept saying no, I'd be cast as the villain. Against my better judgment, I reluctantly agreed on one condition. Nathan would actively search for his own place immediately. Cut to Audrey driving home looking exhausted that night. The weight of what I'd agreed to hit me hard. I'd have to reschedule the party, reorganize my space, and somehow keep my sanity with 4 extra people in my carefully curated home. Cut to chaotic moving day. The morning Nathan and his kids moved in was chaos incarnate. What I'd expected to be a few suitcases turned out to be a small moving truck's worth of stuff. Boxers labeled Nathan's college stuff, kids, summer clothes, all signs this wasn't going to be 3 months. "Where should I put these?" Nathan asked, holding a box labeled gaming setup. I stared. "You brought your gaming console?" He shrugged, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "The kids need entertainment." Swallowing my frustration, I showed them around my once pristine space. "The boys share the guest room? Emma, you'll take the pull-out couch in the living room. I need you all to respect my things and my space. Especially my home office," I told Nathan firmly. "I have important client calls, and I need quiet during work hours." Nathan just nodded absently while the kids explored my condo like it was an amusement park. Mason, immediately pressed his chocolate-covered fingers against my floor-to-ceiling windows, smudging the glass that had been spotless that morning. "Mason, please don't touch the windows," I said, trying to keep my voice gentle. "Don't be so uptight, Audrey," Nathan chided. "He's just excited about the view." By evening, my carefully organized condo looked like it had been hit by a tornado. Toys were scattered across the living room floor. dishes piled in the sink, and sticky handprints appeared on my white sofa. I retreated to my bedroom, the only space still under my control, and called Diana to explain why I had to reschedule the party. That's terrible, she sympathized. Can't they stay with your parents? Apparently not. Mom had made it clear. This was my family duty. How long will they be there? I asked. Nathan says 3 months. I trailed off already, suspecting it would be longer. Cut to time passing montage, chaos increasing. The first week was an adjustment, I told myself. The second week would be better, once everyone settled into a routine. But as days turned into weeks, the situation only got worse. Liam, the 9-year-old, had a habit of barging into my bedroom without knocking. Emma, at 12, had appropriated my expensive skincare products without asking. Mason continued his campaign to leave fingerprints on every surface in my home. Nathan, he had made zero progress finding his own place. When I asked about his job search during week 3, he waved vaguely at leads and connections that never turned into interviews. Cut to Audrey, frustrated at work. My work began to suffer. Client calls were interrupted by kids arguing or Nathan's booming laugh as he played online games with friends. My carefully organized files were moved or misplaced. One morning, I found Mason had used my client presentation as a coloring sheet. Nathan, this has to stop. I confronted him after discovering my favorite cashmere sweater shrunk to doll size in the washing machine. The kids need boundaries, I said, and you need to be actively looking for a place. I am looking, he insisted. It's not easy with my credit score after the divorce, but I've got a promising lead on a sales position. Once that comes through, things will turn around. I'd heard this same promise for weeks. When will that be? I asked. He shrugged. Soon. These things take time. Cut to phone calls with parents. My parents were no help. Every time I called a vent, Mom reminded me, family first, and how the kids needed stability. When I pointed out Nathan spent most days playing video games instead of job hunting, she defended him. He's going through a difficult time. He needs to decompress. Cut to Audrey arriving home from business trip. The situation hit a new low when I returned from a business trip to find my home office rearranged. My desk was pushed against the wall. My filing cabinet was missing, and a gaming console had been set up on my workspace. Where are my files? I demanded. Nathan finally emerged from the kitchen. Oh, I put them in storage, he said casually. The kids needed a place to play their games when it rains. Your office has the best lighting. Nathan, I said, that room is off limits. I need it for work. He looked offended. You're barely here anyway. You were gone for 3 days. And when you're home, you're always working. The kids need space too. Cut to Audrey overhearing phone call that night. I overheard Nathan on the phone with Mom. Yeah, she's getting upset about the office thing, but she'll get over it. I think we need to discuss a more permanent arrangement, Nathan said. The rental market is insane right now, and with my credit, besides, the kids are settled in school now. Changing districts again would be disruptive. Mom's response was muffled, but Nathan's reply was clear. 6 months minimum, maybe through the end of the school year. She can afford it. Did you see her latest promotion announcement on LinkedIn? Director level now. I stood frozen in the hallway, the realization crashing over me like ice water. This was never meant to be temporary. Nathan had no intention of leaving, and my parents were enabling him every step of the way. Cut to next morning, Audrey searching for contract. The next morning, I found the final straw. While searching for a missing client contract, I discovered Nathan had been going through my financial documents. Statements were out of order. My checkbook was missing from its usual place. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. I was just curious about your mortgage rate, he said casually. Thinking about refinancing if I buy a place? If I repeated. I thought the plan was when, not if. He shrugged, that infuriating non-committal gesture I'd grown to hate. Well, you know, with the market like it is. Cut to Audrey calling family meeting. I called for another family meeting, determined to set things straight this time. This time we gathered at my condo, so everyone could see firsthand how crowded and chaotic the situation had become. This isn't working, I stated firmly. Nathan hasn't made any progress finding a job or apartment. My work is suffering, and my space has been completely taken over. Instead of support, I was met with a wall of resistance. The children seem perfectly happy here, Mom observed, willfully ignoring the mess and tension. Nathan needs more time, Dad added. Jobs don't grow on trees, Melanie suggested, with false innocence. It would be easier if you found a smaller place for yourself, something closer to your office, since you're always there anyway. I stared at her, stunned. You want me to move out of my own home? It makes the most sense, Mom said, without missing a beat. Nathan needs the space for the children. You're just one person. And in that moment, looking at their expectant faces, the truth hit me with chilling clarity. To my family, I wasn't a person with needs or boundaries. I was a resource, a backup plan, a safety net. Useful only when Nathan failed again. My success wasn't something to celebrate. It was something to exploit. I had never truly been a daughter or a sister in their eyes. I had been convenience in a power suit, and I was done. Still, I tried one last time to salvage what I could. I gave Nathan a clear deadline. You have 4 weeks to find a job and secure an apartment, I told him. I'll even help with the deposit if needed, but this ends January 31st. No extensions. Nathan nodded with mock sincerity. Absolutely, I'm on it. He stayed on it for exactly 3 days. Scrolling through job sites, keeping tabs open, pretending. By day 4, he was back on his gaming console. Job hunt forgotten. That Friday, I stayed late at the office, my only remaining sanctuary. A text from my neighbor Patricia lit up my phone. Is your brother having a party? Lots of noise coming. From your place? Just thought you should know. My stomach dropped. I hadn't authorized any gathering. I raced home and walked into chaos. But at least a dozen strangers were in my condo. Music blasted from unfamiliar speakers. The unmistakable smell of marijuana hung in the air despite my strict no-smoking policy. And there was Nathan, beer in hand, laughing, like he owned the place. What is this? I demanded. Nathan grinned. Hey sis, just a few friends over to watch the game. Want a beer? I didn't respond. I couldn't. Red wine stained my cream rug. My curated bookshelves were rearranged to make room for liquor bottles, and worst of all, someone I didn't even know was rummaging. Through my wine fridge, he pulled out a bottle I'd been saving for a special occasion. Shadow Knof dupe, I said, snatching it from his hands. That's a $300 bottle of wine. He looked at me blankly, like I'd just spoken Latin. Nathan said to help ourselves, he muttered. I turned to my brother, fury rising. Everyone needs to leave now. Nathan rolled his eyes. Don't be such a buzzkill, Audrey. It's just a little get-together in my home. With my things, without my permission. He turned to his friends, laughing. See what I mean? Always so uptight about her precious things. And something in me snapped out. I shouted, loud enough that even the music seemed to hesitate. Everyone who didn't live there shuffled awkwardly toward the door. Nathan watched them go, looking more embarrassed for me than himself. When the last stranger had left, I turned to him. This is completely unacceptable. You can't just take over my home like this. Technically, it's our home now, he said coolly. Mom said, I don't care what Mom said. This is my condo. My name is on the mortgage. I make the rules. Nathan's face shifted. The fake charm disappeared, replaced by the coldness I'd seen whenever someone dared hold him accountable. Look, I get you're stressed about work or whatever, but you need to lighten up. The kids and I need space to live, not just exist in your perfect little museum. Then get your own place. That was the deal. The deal, he sneered, was family helping family. But I guess your precious career and fancy apartment matter more than your own niece and nephews having a roof over their heads. Don't you dare use the kids as shields, I snapped. This isn't about them. It's about you taking advantage. Like you always have. His face twisted. You know what? You don't even need this place. You're always working. Must be nice having nothing in your life but a job and expensive wine no one's allowed to touch. His words landed like fists. Before I could reply, my phone rang. Mom's name lit up the screen like she'd been waiting for her cue. I answered. Nathan says you're threatening to throw them out. Over a little get-together, she said, skipping any greeting. I laughed bitterly. A little get-together. There were strangers in my home going through my things. I'm not threatening to do anything, I'm enforcing the boundaries we agreed to. Boundaries, she scoffed. He's your brother, not some roommate. Family doesn't have boundaries. Family shouldn't take advantage either, but here we are. I'm disappointed in you, Audrey. I thought we raised you better. Than this, the irony was staggering. Better than what I asked. Better than expecting basic respect in my own home. Better than asking my brother to finally, for once, take responsibility. He's going through a difficult time. He's always going through a difficult time, I exploded. And somehow, it's always my job to fix it. Rachel was quiet for a moment, then said gently, Odd, how do you feel? I took a breath and looked around at the half-packed boxers, the stripped-down shelves, the echo of my own voice in a space that no longer felt like home. Lighter, I said. Sad? A little angry? Sure, but mostly free. Rachel exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for me. I'm proud of you. You did something people spend their whole lives too afraid to do. You chose yourself, and for the first time in a long time, I knew she was right. The next day, I left before sunrise. The kids were still asleep. Nathan was passed out on the couch, a controller resting on his chest. My now half-empty liquor shelf behind him. I left a single note on the kitchen counter. The condo is listed for sale. Utilities will be disconnected in 5 days. Please, make arrangements, Audrey. No explanation, no apology, no drama. I walked out with my suitcase, laptop bag, and the portable safe tucked under my arm, the only things I truly needed. By 8 a.m., I was sipping coffee in my new apartment, watching the city wake up through tall, spotless windows. For the first time in months, there were no toys on the floor, no noise, no chaos, no guilt, just quiet, just peace. Nathan's first call came around noon. I let it go to voicemail. So did the second and the third. By the fourth call, this one from Mom, I blocked both of them. I wasn't interested in explanations or pleas or rage thinly disguised as concern. Asterisk, she asked, and I took a moment to really think about it. Lighter, I finally replied. Like I've set down something I've been carrying for years. When are you going to tell them? She asked. I'm not, I answered. I'm leaving a letter. Nathan comes back tomorrow. With the kids, I'll be gone before then. Rachel paused. Don't you think you should talk to them in person? Why? I said. So they can try to talk me out of it. So Mom can cry and Nathan can guilt me over the kids. No, I've made up my mind. Okay, she said quietly. Do you need help moving your things? Yes, please. Can you come? Early tomorrow. I want to be gone before they get back. The next morning arrived clear and cold, a crisp January day that felt perfect for a fresh start. Rachel showed up at 8 a.m., coffee in hand and ready to help. We packed up the last of the boxes and filled both my car and her SUV as Rachel carried the final box out. I stood for a moment in the middle of what had once been my safe space. Traces of my style still lingered in the decor, but it had been overtaken by Nathan's mess, children's toys scattered on the floor, dishes left in the sink, game controllers on the coffee table. I placed the letter I'd written on the kitchen counter, weighed down with my spare keys. It wasn't angry or emotional, just straightforward. Nathan, I've moved out and listed the condo for sale. My attorney will contact you once a buyer is found regarding the closing. All utilities are no longer in my name, so you'll need to set up your own accounts if you want to continue services. This decision wasn't made in haste, result of years of patterns I can no longer sustain. I wish you and the children the best, but I need to prioritize my own well-being now. The furniture and basic household items are yours to use until the sale is finalized. Please treat them with care. Audra, simple, clear. Final. As I turned to leave, Jessica texted to confirm the for sale sign would be up later that day. Perfect timing. I looked around one last time, not at what I was leaving behind, but at what I was walking away from. The constant expectation that my needs should always come last. The idea that my success was just a safety net for Nathan, and the belief that family duty meant sacrificing personal boundaries. I locked the door, knowing I wouldn't need that key again. Rachel was waiting by the cars. Ready? She asked. I nodded, surprised at how calm I felt. More than ready. As we pulled away, I didn't glance back at the building I had called home. Instead, I focused on what lay ahead, a life where I valued myself not for how much I gave, but for how much I respected my own needs. It felt like freedom. 3 hours later, settled into my new apartment, the first call came. Nathan's name lit up on my screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the flood of messages, texts filled with shock and anger. WTF, Audra? Is this a joke? Call me right now. They're putting up a for sale sign. I muted the notifications and kept unpacking, placing my belongings in the quiet, sunlit space that already felt more peaceful than anywhere I'd been in weeks. Then my phone rang again. This time, it was Mom. I didn't pick up, but she called back, and again. On the 5th call, I answered. How could you do this? She demanded, her voice trembling. You've left your brother and his kids with nothing. That's not true, I said calmly. They have a place to live until the condo sells. That could take months. Nathan has time to find a job and get his own place. The utilities are already being shut off. The internet's gone. The electric company says they'll disconnect tomorrow if no one starts a new account. Yes, I said. I took everything out of my name. Nathan will need to set up his own accounts. With what money? She cried. He can't afford those deposits. I felt a small pang of guilt, but I let it pass. That's not my responsibility anymore. Mom, Nathan's an adult. He needs to figure it out. I can't believe it. How cold you're being, she said, her tone shifting to that disappointed voice I'd heard my entire life. This isn't how we raised you. No, I said. You raised me to believe my needs didn't matter. You raised me to always be the responsible one while Nathan got away with everything. Well, I'm still being responsible just for myself. This time, there was a long silence. Then she said, your father wants to talk to you. Dad's voice came through, rough and hesitant. Audra, this isn't like you. You've always been the level-headed one. It was the first positive thing he'd said to me in years, and it still felt like criticism. Dad, where were you when Nathan took over my home office? When Mom suggested I move out of my own condo? This didn't come out of nowhere. It's been building for years. We can talk about this, he said, sounding worn down. Come to dinner tonight. Let's figure it out as a family. No, I said firmly, but kindly. I'm not coming over to be outnumbered and persuaded. My decision is final. After that, the calls kept coming from Nathan, Mom, Dad, even Melanie. I silenced them all. I needed room to think, to feel the full weight of what I'd done. That evening, a text from Melanie popped up. Just so you know, Nathan's telling everyone you had a mental breakdown. Mom's crying. Dad's talking about hiring a lawyer. Is this really worth tearing the family apart? I laughed not because it was funny, but because it was so familiar. The family only fell apart when I stopped playing the role they needed me to. As long as I quietly sacrificed, everything was fine. The next morning, Jessica called. There's a situation at the condo, she began cautiously. What kind of situation? I asked. Your brother wasn't cooperative during a showing. He told the potential buyers the property wasn't really for sale and claimed you had no right to list it. He told them they were wasting their time. I sighed. I was afraid this might happen. What do we do? I contacted your attorney like you suggested, she said. She confirmed you're the sole owner, so you have every right to sell it, regardless of who's living there. Still, she recommends sending Nathan a formal notice to vacate just to document everything properly in case things get messy. Do it, I replied without hesitation. The formal notice triggered another wave of family backlash. Nathan called my office so many times our receptionist eventually had to block his number. My mom left me voicemails, tearful monologues about family loyalty and how I was turning into my father's sister, a woman I'd never met who had apparently cut ties with the family decades ago. No one ever told me why. Surprisingly, it was Melanie who reached out a few days later with something approaching reason. Can we get coffee? Her text read, just Usno ambush. I promise. Despite my reservations, I agreed, choosing a cafe near my office so I wouldn't have to reveal my new address. Melanie looked different when she arrived, less sure of herself. She ordered a latte, fiddled with the sugar packets, and finally spoke. I talked to Sophia, she said. Nathan's ex? I asked. Why I needed to understand what really happened with the divorce. Nathan's story never added up. I waited. I could tell she wasn't done. She told me he gambled away their savings twice. The first time she covered for him, for the kid's sake. The second time, she couldn't do it anymore. And he wasn't between jobs when they split. He got fired for showing up to work drunk. I'm not surprised, I said quietly. The thing is, Melanie continued, I always believed him. I thought Sophia was just bitter. I thought you were being selfish. But now, I'm starting to see things differently. It was the closest I'd ever come to hearing an apology from her. What happens now? She asked. The condo sells. Nathan finds another place. Life continues. And us. The family. I took a moment before answering. I don't know, Mel. I need time and space. She nodded. I understand. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. It just took me a while to see it. As I left the cafe, I felt a subtle shift in the family dynamics. For the first time, someone had broken rank, had acknowledged the dysfunction. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was a small crack in the wall that had always stood against me. The next week, there was another update. My attorney called to let me know Nathan had spoken with a lawyer in an attempt to stop the sale. It's just a delay tactic, she said. He has no legal claim. The deed and mortgage are in your name alone. He can't stop the sale, he can only slow things down. If he refuses to leave, we'll file for eviction. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. Something changed. After that, maybe it was the legal notice. Maybe just the realization that I wouldn't budge. Nathan's anger faded into a more subdued bitterness. He began allowing showings, though Jessica told me he made a point of highlighting the condo's flaws to every buyer. Still, offers started coming in. The Chicago market was strong, and the condo's central location, nicely maintained, attractive even with a reluctant occupant. 6 weeks after listing, we accepted an offer above asking price from a young professional couple who were willing to wait for closing to take occupancy. The sale was moving forward, and Nathan would have to make other arrangements. As the closing date approached, Nathan finally called. His tone was different this time. I found an apartment, he said without any greeting. 3-bedroom, in Rogers Park. The landlord's willing to work with my credit. That's good, I replied evenly. I need help with the security deposit, he added. It was a familiar ask, but in a different context. I paused. I'll pay it directly to the landlord, I said finally. Not to you. Send me their details. This wasn't about generosity, it was practicality. The sooner he moved out, the smoother the closing would be. And maybe, in some small way, it was a final nod to the role I had played for so long. The difference now was that the help came with conditions. My terms. A week before closing, I met Rachel for dinner. To freedom, she toasted, raising her glass. 2 boundaries. I replied, clinking mine against hers. Have you talked to your parents? She asked. I shook my head. Not directly. Mom still leaves messages, but they're less angry now, mostly sad. Dad sent an email. He said he hopes we can put this unfortunate situation behind us after the sale goes through. And will you? I thought about it. Not in the way he means. I'm not going back to being the fallback plan, but maybe if the boundaries are clear, some kind of relationship is possible. I don't know yet. Rachel nodded. You don't have to figure it all out now. That's the beauty of where you were. You get to decide what comes next. She was right. For the first time, I wasn't reacting to what my family needed from me. I was creating something entirely new on my terms. This wasn't revenge, even if Nathan saw it that way. It was about preservation. And finally, about respect for myself. After 32 years, I had finally learned to put myself first. Whatever came next would happen on my terms. 6 months had passed since the day I walked away from my condo and from the toxic family dynamics it had come to symbolize. Now I stood in the heart of my new home, a beautiful 3-bedroom townhouse in Lincoln Park, complete with a small garden and enough space for both comfortable living and a dedicated home office. The proceeds from the condo sale had allowed me to make a sizable down payment, and thanks to continued success at work, the mortgage was well within reach. More importantly, this space was fully mine chosen based solely on what I wanted and needed. That morning, I'd been arranging flowers and putting the final touches on the decor for the evening's celebration. The New Year's party I had been denied a year earlier was now reimagined as a housewarming event. Catering would arrive soon, and the bartender was already setting up in the kitchen. My phone chimed. It was a text from Diana. "Need any last-minute help?" "All under control," I replied. "See you at 7. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Rachel, holding a bottle of champagne and a small wrapped box. "I know the party's not until tonight," she said, "but I wanted to drop this off early." Inside the box was a brass door knocker engraved with my name. The card read, "For your new beginning, Rachel." "It's perfect," I said, hugging her. "Thank you for everything. I couldn't have made it through this past year without—" "You sure you could have?" she smiled. "You were stronger than you realized. I just reminded you now and then." As we sipped coffee in my bright, open kitchen, I reflected on the whirlwind of change that had followed my decision to leave. The condo had sold without further conflict, though Nathan had waited until the last possible day to move out. True to my word, I'd paid his security deposit directly to his new landlord. Our last financial connection cleanly severed. My relationship with my family had shifted into a new phase, distant, but not hostile. Trust was being slowly rebuilt, though now with boundaries in place. My mom had eventually stopped leaving guilt-laced voicemails and instead began sending more neutral texts, asking about work and my new home without making emotional demands. My dad had reached out with a surprisingly thoughtful email. "I've been thinking about the patterns in our family. I didn't realize how much we leaned on you to take care of everything Nathan couldn't. That wasn't fair." It wasn't quite an apology, but coming from him, it was meaningful. Melanie and I had started reconnecting over the occasional brunch. We kept the focus on our own lives, steering clear of family drama. She'd confided that her marriage was on shaky ground, but unlike in the past, she wasn't expecting me to fix it. She just wanted someone to listen. Nathan and I remained at a distance. He sent a holiday card with a photo of his kids and a short formal note about how they were adjusting to their new school. I replied with gift cards for the children and a polite greeting. It wasn't warm, but it was a major step forward from the chaos of the previous year. The boundaries I had set in my personal life had begun to influence my professional life as well. I'd started saying no to projects that pushed me past my limits. I made sure my time and skills were respected, and I spoke up more confidently about my ideas. The results were better than I'd expected. Instead of holding me back, these boundaries had propelled my career forward. 3 months ago, I was promoted to Vice President of Creative Strategy, a position I might have missed if I'd still been consumed by family obligations. "Earth 2, Andy," Rachel said, waving a hand in front of my face. "Where'd you go just now?" I smiled, just thinking about how much can change in a year. "For the better," she added, "definitely for the better." As evening fell and guests arrived, a deep sense of peace settled over me. Diana and Marcus came with wine and warm congratulations. Friends and colleagues filled the space with energy and laughter. Even a few of my new neighbors dropped by to welcome me to the block. At midnight, we raised our glasses. "To the new year," I said. 2 fresh starts and 2 remembering our own worth. Later, after everyone had left and I was curled up on the couch in the quiet aftermath, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The pain had been real. The decisions had been hard, but it had all been worth it. I'd learned that sometimes the hardest steps are the most necessary. That setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's crucial. That family, at its best, supports you, not drains you. And most importantly, I'd learned that I deserved to be the main character in my own life, not a background player in someone else's. As I drifted off to sleep in my new home, I felt nothing but peace and hope for the path ahead. A path I chose. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took your generosity for granted? What helped you find the strength to finally say no? Share your story in the comments below. If Andy's journey resonated with you, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about growth and self-discovery. And hit that share button if you know someone who needs to hear this message today. And remember, sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most beautiful new beginnings. Thanks for watching, and here's to prioritizing your well-being in the year ahead.